Howdy, my name is Case Copeland. We're here with some of the Divergence Academy leadership team,
Shravana Karaju, President and CEO.
President, CEO, and
Albert Feliciano, Director of Student Success.
new Director of Student Success. This has got to be exciting.
Absolutely. It's been a wild ride.
Has it? How long's it been already?
I think about 3 months now.
Okay.
Something along those lines, but it feels like it just started yesterday still.
Are you over the initial, overwhelming, where do I begin?
No longer Bambi legs, but still, still shaking just a little bit. We're getting there, You, as a human, you learn from growth, from pain.
Awesome.
So you make
Okay.
mistakes and keep growing.
Well, before I throw out this topic, any grand wisdoms from your first, 2 months, 3 months?
Take every problem as it comes, and not everything is a 911 fire. You can't solve the world's problems, but you can solve one problem at a time.
That's good wisdom.
Yes, sir. It's not bad at all.
Because you and I have talked about, we have the challenge with the savior mentality, wanting to fix everything all the time.
Always trying to go ahead and I can rectify this, I can make this happen. But things take time, things take patience, things take energy. And as one person, as a human, you can't give all of that as much as you would like to. Of course, we have our own internal battles going on and things going on in our lives that we need to handle as well. So it's easier to kind of just take care of yourself for a little bit and then take on these problems as they go along. Compartmentalize things as they go.
Okay, well, that's a good segue because that sounds like some old man wisdom. So the topic that I thought would be interesting would be how to write it down, the value of the journey. We talk about our programs being pathway programs, that, you're not going to come out of any 10-week or 20-week program and get to fast forward to that ending, that big jump that you're going to get to. You have to go through the process. You have to learn along the way to even know what direction you want to turn once you get to certain critical junctures. So I have written this down as the pathways conversation, the value of the journey. And I know that you've got more of a journey than the rest of us. We've each kind of gone, that was not an old joke. I didn't mean it that way. But we each have gone through our own journey just to even get to the Divergence doorstep, right? So
Yes.
how do you communicate your own personal journey down to the student level, help them to experience and value their own journey?
It's a great question, and I don't think I have gone through my own journey completely yet, and I'm learning as we are talking here on the show. I take the example of our own CTO who walked in one day and said, "I want to be a data scientist," and the gentleman was very clear in his head that he wanted to be a data scientist. But okay, let's get the journey started, and then we started working together one-on-one as almost like a tutoring on becoming a data scientist. And turns out that step by step, we uncovered in terms of learning algorithms to learning programming to data analysis and data analysis using Python. Turns out that every time he uncovered a problem, the more invested he was in learning that thing more deeply. Next thing you know, the time passes by, and we never got to becoming a data scientist, right? The gentleman never got to data scientist. He quickly learned that there's more to learn to become a data scientist to the likes of Facebook or Google's. Realized that I have enough knowledge to continue learning, but I'm going to stop where I am and get to a workforce, go get a job and practice it. And after practicing for a year or two, joined us as a CTO. Right? So I think we all have a learning moment. We all have to go through a journey. What exactly works for us is anybody's guess, but you got to trust the process. You got to trust that the journey or the pathway we created for an individual is based on feedback, and that feedback is going to be great for whoever's coming in. It goes on in my own journey, as a CEO. I think I'm more prepared now than I was 8 years ago or 7 years ago. I've learned through wisdom that said, don't boil the ocean, handle the snake in front of you, right? And these things that are passed down wisdoms, but until I, burned my hands, I did not trust that wisdom. But now I do. I can say clearly, guys, you got to practice what we preach, right? We got to get your computer, get your hands on keyboards. You're going to practice. You're going to learn. And at a certain point in time, you're going to learn that we have a process, a system in place. You can continue learning. What is a good pathway? You do not know until you get there. That's why we have this philosophy of being a passionate explorer. You cannot see the complete domain. You will never be able to see a full domain. And that itself is a great start. Knowing what you do not know is a great start, because that is a great learning moment that you got a lot to learn.
So connecting back to one of the things you had just said a minute or so ago, I think the takeaway from that is you don't need to know enough to get all the way to here. You need to know enough to get started,
Correct.
because there's no straight line to whatever ending you want to fast forward to. You can't just make that jump, because not only do you have to know what you want to do, you also have to discover what you don't want to do.
Right.
And we've had so many students get halfway through the program, and they're like, yeah, this isn't for me. And that's, hey, high five. Great recognition. You have to work to be able to get to that level where you can say, I know what I want, but I also know what I don't want.
Yes.
It happens all the time in cybersecurity program, and they do not know they want to be in pen testing program or what pen testing is until they get to module 7 or module 8, or sorry, course 8 within a module 3, which is, hey, you really have to pen test a system. You really have to hack into something. And is it ethical or unethical? We're going to teach you ethical ways to kind of break into a system, because you got to learn to play defense. You got to know good offense. So we teach them stuff. But after they get into it, they realize, I don't want to be in hacking. It really does not work in my consciousness that I'm going to do this kind of work. But it is a good kind of work, right? It is SIG stuff you have to do to break systems to see if they are vulnerable or not. Zero-day attacks. All these things are important, but our students do not realize that that is the work they actually have to do.
Right.
Right? And once they do it and they actually like it, they want to be in it. But if they don't like it, they've already given up.
Yeah, you can't artificially create that learning moment right there. No. You have to, organically get into a step. You have to be prepared to get to that step. You get to that step. You try it, and maybe you like it, maybe you don't, but you have to authentically get there.
It's that experience who counts.
But now I want to come to you. So back on the new school leadership role. So this idea of, the journey, the pathway. One of the conversations you and I have had about, one of the common traits or themes with our student base is they're all in transition. They're all trying to get somewhere. They need a job. They got to take care of the family. They got bills to pay. So there are almost always stresses. There are outside pressures that are making it difficult for them. And we've talked about this. You and I have both been through transitions, and it's oppressive because it's never out of your mind. So it sometimes impedes you being able to commit fully to a program when you know how much you got to get taken care of back at home. Right.
Absolutely.
So sometimes our students want to fast forward through their program because of how badly they got to get these other needs taken care of. What kind of wisdom do you give them for that?
But it is I'll start off like this. They say one way to make the universe laugh is tell them that you have a plan. No. Unfortunately, getting to where you want to go, you can plan out your straight line as much as you want. However, it's going to get turned around somewhere else, and you will eventually reach that spot, but not in the way that you exactly wanted it to. I can tell you from my standpoint, and Shravan mentioned it earlier, that you're going to figure out what it is that you like and what you don't like. And you're going to have to go through that process, through those hardships in order to kind of figure that out. With our tech prep series, when I was working at admissions, one thing that I would always tell the students themselves is tech is massive. So that being said, we have our CEI, tech prep, CPPT, and DSI. I would tell them to do all three. It's kind of like picking out your favorite flavor of ice cream. If you don't like any of the flavors, chances are you might not want to delve into this. But as far as the journey itself is concerned, once they figure out what they want to do or have a knack for, it's the struggles that they're going to have to go through, and the labs, the capstones, the stressors that they're going to have. I know for me personally, I was pretty sure I was addicted to caffeine for a while, having these late night sessions, trying to figure out coding and everything, and still getting it wrong, bug after bug after bug. It really put your nose to the grindstone and just kind of really puts you in your place and lets you know, wow, I have a long way to go. But as far as the students having their, going through the journey and understanding that process, I think they're going to be able to kind of appreciate more or less where they're at, kind of find themselves. And then from that point forward, go ahead and really have that internal aha moment where they, kind of understand where it is they lie, what they like, what they don't like, and how to go about doing it. And a lot of them will, unfortunately, crumble or continue forward, but with the help of the SSAs and of course the rest of Divergence, we try to assist them, push them forward as much as we possibly can. But it does ultimately come down to the student themselves wanting to go to the very end of that path. I like to use my time in admissions because I kind of got to see things from start to finish. A lot of these students, they would come in and just say, hey, I really want to be a cool guy pen tester, Mr. Robot with your hood up, sitting there on your laptop at a cafe shop and shutting down the Pentagon. But since a lot of them are military, I'm military myself, I kind of break it down in terms that I think that they would be a lot more comfortable with, Going through Divergence is like going through boot camp. You're looking down at your feet thinking, oh my God, what have I done? And then, you come in with pretty much no knowledge. And, you get kicked around a little bit here and there. You come out a full-fledged, service member. And that's, kind of like a metaphor for divergence. We're going to teach you the basics, the things that you need to learn how to survive with. Once you get out of there, you're going to have some special skills that you can go ahead and specialize in your after-school training or AIT. That's kind of getting to you like your first job. After you get to that first job, then you're going to go ahead and get those skills that you need to go ahead and progress to the next one. So if you want to be like a cool guy, Navy SEAL or something like that, and have to go to special school, aka like pen testers, for example. Once you finish that up, then you can go there. But a lot of people tend to want to go right from, oh, I graduated Divergence, now it's time to go work at the Pentagon. It doesn't quite exactly work that way. Just take your time. You're going to have to, of course, learn these skills, these networking things, and of course.
You have to get to pivotal steps.
Yes.
Not just to decide whether to turn left or to turn right, but even to find out that you can turn left or you can't turn right.
Exactly.
Like you have to get there. But since you brought up boot camp, so we've also talked about, how the challenge of our programs, because there's so much content in such a small amount of time, is not the game. Our program is still really just pregame. This isn't the real world. Like the whole mindset of you go through the program just to develop some skills, just to develop the right mindset, but learning doesn't stop on the last day of the program.
Oh, no.
That, again, it's still really pregame.
It's continuous.
Like everything that you go through in a program, as far as all the demands, is just a easy mimicry of how demanding an actual job is going to be.
Right. Yeah, we talked about this. The more programs we introduce, how foundational our work is becoming. We can introduce, half a dozen pathways: security operations pathway, cybersecurity pathway, data science pathway, automation pathway, AI pathway. We can add as many pathways as we think industry needs. But more pathways we introduce, we're saying everybody who's coming in should have understanding of problem solving, critical thinking, logic, reasoning, because at some point in time, you are going to get an assist. That assist is going to be through artificial intelligence. We have already talked about even the most vocational trade can now look up a video on YouTube and learn to practice repair, right? A replacement of a washing machine or dishwasher. Everybody gets to watch a video and get through the basic troubleshooting. I think we have an assist, whether it's a YouTube video or AI in future. But the ability to ask that question and ability to receive the answer and figure out what that answer is for the problem you're trying to solve, decipher it, is going to be so much more needed because of the sophistication that's coming in every single day. We cannot teach everything, but we can teach some ground truths and some facts to allow our student to move forward. And that is the best part of Divergence. The pathways are a little more foundational, are going to become more foundational going forward because the technology is changing fast. We talk about abundance of information and scarcity of time. If you're going to come in just for 400 hours and it's 10 weeks, we're going to start the ground with all the foundations so you can get to the end of that pathway real fast.
And then, because we know that all of our programs, since, in order for us to be approved by the Texas Workforce Commission, all of our programs have to be submitted and approved
Correct.
by a design. And it's very easy to articulate and to lay out the content design, but it's impossible to really get into describing the behavioral components, the behavioral teaching that is necessary just to get people in the right mindset. How do you deal with something when you don't know an answer? How do you harness those figure it out moments?
Learning how to be a student.
Right. So it's impossible with any program to really articulate the depths of all that is really taught, because it's so much more than just content. We're teaching behaviors. We're teaching qualities. We're, sometimes, I say teaching behaviors, sometimes the best thing we can do is just set up how to model the behavior and hope that they absorb it or adopt it, which in one of our other conversations, we've talked about the instructors and the value of our instructors being professionals, that they have worked themselves into these successful habits. And if you don't have that successful habit yet, borrow somebody else's until you make it your own.
And you talked about this, and we talk about get a student follow a step-by-step instruction. So if they can go through a step 1 to step 25, step-by-step instruction, they can follow the instruction and go through the detail. If they missed a step, then they do not know how to complete that detailed work. So if you do not know what you work, if you don't have the experience in IT, at a minimum start out following the direction. And once you do it like 5 or 6 times, you get the mastery. Those are the things we are trying to kind of instill in the work we are teaching. Follow the book, follow the guidelines, and get through the step-by-step practice. And then the more you do it, the better you get at it. And then by default, you know how to follow whatever the instruction is, whatever the guidance is, wherever it's coming from, even if that includes artificial intelligence.
And that's the growth of the journey.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
They say it takes our coursework is 400 hours. Say it takes 10,000 to become a pro, and that's just on one item, one subject. So to say the least, if they want that other 9,600 hours, they're gonna have to, of course, go through the journey.
Any other takeaway wisdoms on trusting the process, valuing the journey?
There's a lot more in it, CC, right? We talked about the pathway is what an individual makes that pathway to be. They all come from different places in their careers, in their lifetimes, in their journeys, where they're coming from different points in time. And we talked about the real issues related to food safety. We talked about childcare. We're talking about dual income families. Everybody is coming from so many different places, and they're all in the same classroom. Ability to learn and what they're going to learn is going to differ based on where each one is coming from. How far they can go depends on where they are in their own journey. Now, what we are providing is a structure. How far they can go is whatever pathway they make that out to be. And that's the part I think my learning moment as a president and CEO, and so is our collective learning, is keep an eye on that learner who's coming in. They are telling us something. They're telling us something about their own personal moments, and we got to figure out a way to incorporate. We cannot tackle, again, all snakes in front of us. One snake in front of us, one small bite at a time for elephant, and don't boil the ocean, all those euphemisms. But we have a real business to run. These are real world challenges and real students coming in with real problems for us to solve. We're going to do our very best to help student get through our journey, hopefully, in a place where they're going to be extremely successful.
Yes. As far as my recommendations for students coming in, know that this is something that you want. If like I used to tell them in admissions, just take every single tech prep course that we have, do your YouTube research, do everything you can, call our admissions coordinators. Give me a call.
Resources. Talk to anybody.
Exactly. Look it up online. Call us. Call me if you have to. And I'll tell you everything from step one all the way to the end and the reality of it. But knowing that this is something that they want, and this continuous learning, just because you graduate doesn't mean that the game is over. It's actually just begun. So if they have that drive, that conviction to go forward and want to succeed in this field, they're going to have to definitely develop a handful of skills. And of course, technical skills are great. You're going to learn those as you go forward. But just remember, folks, the client-facing is something that's huge in the IT industry. So people skills are necessary.
And importantly, again, knowing that we've all gone through our transition process, so that even though now is very difficult, even though there's clearly battles that you're facing right now, you still can't fast forward through it. You still have to get the value out of where you are in order to work forward. The goal is that at this time next year, you want this time next year to be different than where you are.
And you know this, IT is the best place for anybody to kind of land into. Because if you're really looking for big increases in income, there's no better place to get those huge increases in your compensation than IT, period. At least until you become a surgeon or any other kind of a medical profession. I think it's suffice to say for lots of us who are looking for large compensation, a big compensation, it's IT. But you got to practice. You got to start somewhere. Anybody coming out of a program lands call it help desk, tech support, cloud engineering support, cloud specialist, whatever the role is. If they land, you have to be in that role for 6 months to a year, and after that, you're an experienced individual. You're no more a noob anymore. You've been there, you've done that, and you have actual evidence that you can put on resume that you've been in IT. So the conversation we have about, hey, I want to be at a 6-figure salary and versus a $60,000, $70,000 salary, it's not that far-fetched because 2 jumps, you're in 6 figures. And I think our students have to recognize that, look, this is not far-fetched. But the problem we have is everybody wants to be in a place and the end up pathway as a cybersecurity penetration tester or a data scientist in 400 hours or 400 first hour after graduation.
Right.
They want to be in that position.
Not the last day of the program, just the day after.
The day after the program.
At least see on that grace period.
And it is true, and this is real world, right? And if they are coming with a service member has a benefit and they're coming with a benefit on the last day of it, they have graduated. They need to be in a career and they have to be in a program, a job quickly. And I understand it because if they don't, they have to go back to what they were doing before. Do they have the time to practice it? They may not have enough time to practice what we preach. And so the timeline to get them into careers begins almost at a midway point at divergence. 70%, 80%, the clock is ticking. You got to apply for jobs. You got to do your career readiness workshops. You got to get your resume in place. You got to mock interviews, 60-second pitches. All these have to be in place. And by the way, you also have to apply for jobs. And somehow we got to figure out how to balance all this in an accelerated program. And because on the first day after graduation, they have to be gainfully employed. And it is hard for vocational schools to do that, but we try. We try extremely hard to help our students out.
Because as arduous as that journey is, you have to have all the supports, all the benefits, everything you can along the way, because that's what it demands right now.
Correct.
Awesome. That was some more good old man wisdom. Appreciate it.
Sir.
And thank you all for all the listeners. We appreciate you.